All right, before we get started with the meeting tonight, our Assistant City Manager, Steve Harsman, has some service awards to give out.
I would like to start with our city service awards for a couple of employees that have been here for a little bit. Susan Tate for 10 years. We appreciate it, Susan. Very much. Janelle Graham, and I don't see Janelle. She has been with us for 10 years also. And Mark Landers. Don't see Mark either. He has been with us now for 25 years. And speaking of 25 years, we have a couple of other awards. These come from the Oklahoma Municipal League. And these are actually special awards for those employees that work for municipalities for 25 years. And we're just going to call this Chief's Day because everybody that got one today is a chief. Okay, Mr. Chief Sean Jennings.
Heavy on the Mr.
Yeah.
No. Congratulations.
Yeah, 5 years ago I got mine. And let's keep it in the neighborhood over here. He's not here, but Chief Randall Van. Oh, yes, he is. There he is. I'm sorry. 25 years.
Thanks, Chief. Congratulations.
You look different with real clothes on. I guess that's what. And the next one is Chief Mr. Philip J. Cole. Thanks, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Chief. Thank you.
Hey, oh, I get something to put on your jacket.
All right. I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Would you please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Knapp, then remain standing for the flag salute, please.
Lord, thank you for taking care of us during our daily activities. Thank you for bringing us together, especially to congratulate all of our staff members for their years of service. Thank you for keeping us safe and healthy during this cold season. And thank you for guiding us in our activities on a daily basis and for our deliberations this evening. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. It's in a new old location tonight. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent docket. We have items 1A through E. Do any of those need to be pulled or addressed separately? If not, I'll take a motion on the consent docket as a whole. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent docket. Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 2 is call to the public. If any member of the audience wishes to address the council, please step forward to the podium. First, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Sorry about that. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to address the council? Hearing or seeing none, we'll move on to item 3. Staff has asked council that item 3 be tabled and not discussed tonight. There's still an issue. I guess it needs to go back to P&Z that need to be worked through. So if it's all right with the council, we'll just, do you want a motion to table, David, or?
Yes, I would suggest you continue it to January 19th.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table till January 19th.
All right, moved and seconded. Please post your votes. All right, item 4 is a public hearing item, consideration and possible approval of a special use request by Gary Berlin, applicant, and West Indies Trading Company, LLC, property owners, for the purpose of building a 1,500 square foot accessory building at 8024 Northwest 36th Street. Steve?
Danielle has a presentation for this.
Good evening. As was stated, this is for a special use permit for an accessory structure at 8024 Northwest 36th. The current zoning is R1. The surrounding zoning is also R1. The lot dimensions is 164 by 628 feet. The total area is a little over 2 acres. The existing structures is a residence of about 3,400 square feet and a small storage building on the property. The proposed building is a metal building that's about 1,500 square feet. There's an existing water line that's on Northwest 36th, and then there's a sewer line that's kind of along the church property. I'll show you a picture if you need that as well. The proposed building, again, is the 1,500 square foot metal building. The total height is about 16 feet, and the total height of the house is about 17 feet, and the roof pitch will be very similar to each other. There will be a garage door that will be on the, they'll face the north as well as the west. There will be electricity ran to the building as well. The purpose of the building is primarily for the storage of an RV as well as lawn equipment and maybe an antique car or two.
Is that the picture?
That's what was written down. We can ask the applicant if there's any changes. There was no letters of protest that was received. Kind of an overall aerial photo. This is of the property, and then here's kind of the front view and kind of a site plan. I know it's hard to see. The one in your packet's probably a lot easier to see. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this item as well. And there's where the sewer line is, kind of on the X is where the property is, and then the sewer line's to the east or west of that. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and the applicant's also here if you have any questions.
The size of the existing building?
It didn't say on there, but it was really small from what the aerial was showing.
Well, your borderline, your 1,500 square feet is borderline on the 50%,
No,
isn't it?
it's not.
No.
On the side?
Maybe borderline on 5%, but I've checked that. It's very.
It's real small.
It's,
200 or 300?
say again?
200 or 300 square feet? Or
Oh,
1,000 square
no,
feet?
it's 1,000 square feet. This property that this is on is more than adequate to cover anything that we have in land size that is required by ordinance.
So is this building that he wants to build twice the size of the existing?
No, the existing residence is about 3,400 square feet.
Not the residence, the
The
storage.
small structure. The small structure is probably, my guess is probably under 300 square feet at
Okay.
best.
Kind of, sort of.
Information that I have in my packet tonight, pictures you just showed. Excuse me. The picture you just presented to us is not in our packet tonight, is it?
Oh, is the site plan not?
I didn't see it. Could you go back to that plan?
Like I said, it's really hard to
That one
see.
right there's got some markings on it.
I think it says 28 feet by 24 feet, the
That-
existing outbuilding.
That one is in the packet there.
That one, that's one, and 670, and then you have the 1,500 would be, make it above the 3,400 square foot is 50% of it. But I mean, is our ordinance written to preclude that?
22.
It's 50, let's see.
1,600.
It's either less
1,700
less
would
than
be happy.
10% of the recorded lot area or less than 50% of the gross floor area.
It doesn't say or. It
Well,
just-
it's over the
And I thought that you could add those two together, and they come up to be more than half or more than 50% of the building size. Is that what you're trying to?
It is, yeah.
That's what you're
And it's
stressing.
20 it's
That's what you're
21,
stressing.
it's not
Yes.
1,700 would be the max, and we're at 2,170.
Yes, 2170. So, but does our ordinance say and or
No, it says the greater of the two.
the greater of the two?
So that'd be 10% of the total lot area, which would be
It's
considerably
somewhere
more
around-
than we're talking about.
10,800 square
It's,
feet.
it's, the total lot area
Yeah.
is, yes, the total lot area is not a problem, but the total building area is is a problem. That's just written improperly up there, I
That
see.
would be 21,000, wouldn't it?
10% of the lot is
That's
10,000.
10%, isn't it? Is that 20%?
No, that's
That's the total lot size, and it's 20% of that. Should be 21.
It's at 1.236 by about 44 to 45,000 or square foot per acre. Is that correct? Isn't it 45,000
It
square
is
foot per acre?
The lot is 108,000 square feet.
It'd be 10,000.
And so 10% of that would be 10,400.
Yeah, so that-
50
there's-
feet.
it's-
And half of the gross floor of the building would be 1,700 square feet. But it says the greater of the two. The building can't exceed whichever of those is greater.
It can't exceed 100, it can't exceed 10,000 square
That's
feet.
right. That's what the ordinance
That's-
says.
That's not there. But that's not the only problem with that building. There is no elevation shown to us in any way of depicting how many feet above the peak of the primary residence, the secondary residence, or the accessory building will be.
And what the property owner explained to me, and he can perhaps answer the question better, but it would, the height of the building would be approximately the same height as the house is now.
Well, approximately doesn't tell me anything.
Okay.
It tells me that it's approximately. It doesn't tell me, but we have an ordinance that says that it will not exceed the height of the primary building. And that would also encompass, I would imagine, if the guy had 20 foot of drop off to the back of the property, it would have been very easily covered. But the applicant did not have that in his presentation.
In the packet, it says the height of the primary building is about 16 feet, and the height of the accessory building is 17 feet.
Well, I'm sitting here reading another piece of the literature that was put out that says the total height of the accessory building is 16 and the primary building is 17. They have a 3-2 pitch roof. And that would be, then it has, in addition to this, it has a peak on the roof. Since it's a 312 pitch or whatever that is, it's 3-2. I never heard of a 3-2 pitch roof. That'd almost be straight up and down.
It might be
312, it should be a 312. That would be almost 5 foot. I think this needs to be sent back and made a little more comprehensive for this staff or this council to vote on this one way or the other. Because we spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of political capital on this particular ordinance. and I don't want it raked over the coals by just whatever we want to do.
Right.
And I make the motion that we send this back and get it reconstructed by the owner of the property and brought up with some sort of a detailed elevation of how high this will be.
Okay.
Because he says back here in another section, it says it's 1710. And the other one of the accessory building, and 16.3 of the primary building, which is not in accordance with our ordinance. And it is your prerogative to enforce these ordinances. It's your job. And if this application didn't have it on there, it's hand it back across the desk and tell him it doesn't meet the code. You don't need to bring it up here to us and spend our time on it, which is, our time is very valuable also.
I will second that motion.
I would suggest, since this was an advertised public hearing, that this item also be continued to January 19th. That way we won't have to republish the notice
Okay,
of hearing.
I can change my, let's do, what did you say again?
Can they go through P and Z again and be back to us on the 19th?
Unless you pick a different date. That'd be the next scheduled meeting. You certainly would have that prerogative, but I would think to get that elevation, that's 2 weeks away. I think they could get that done by then.
And we just turned another building, accessory building down in that particular area because it didn't meet part of our ordinances. And it would be a slide on these people to let us go ahead and let this go ahead with a glaring error that this has in it.
Does this need to be on the PNC agenda for Thursday night?
No, it's already been to the planning commission. I don't think it needs to go back unless you choose to
I
send
think we
it
can
back.
handle it if they produce it to my satisfaction. And they do it according to the ordinances which we have laid out over a period of time. I make the motion that we reschedule this to the next available meeting. That was
It's January 19th.
January the 19th.
I would second that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Item 5 is consideration and possible approval of the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality Phase 2 MS4 Stormwater Permit application. Steve?
This is the application that, and literally it is just the application for the stormwater permit application. If you have any questions, Danielle is here to answer those questions. But basically, this is pretty much just a blank application for you to look at before she starts filling it in. Is that correct?
Pretty much at this point, we have 90 days to come into compliance, or to have the permit submitted to DEQ. I kind of pretty much filled it out, and Julie and I worked on it a little bit before she left, and then I continued after she did leave. Basically, the permit application that you have pretty much follows the details of what DEQ is requiring. And it'll be sent to DEQ, and then they'll come back with any comments or suggestions that we need to add or change, and then we'll go through a process, and then eventually it'll be accepted.
Is there any great change to what we're doing on this application as to what we did on the last application?
Not at this time. There's not a whole lot of changes just yet. They just issued the permit in first part of November, so it's just now starting to kind of come into it. But there wasn't really much changes as far as from 2005 to 2015.
Could you make a copy for the council to look at those changes and see what they are, so we would understand them better?
Yeah, I'll send you the packet that they sent me.
Don't send me the packet. I want to condense. I mean, this right here was terrible to read. and I didn't get any of it. You're going to know what they are, so if you could make a little condensed form that says they're going to change A to B and B to C and whatever we got to do, I would appreciate that very much.
Okay, I can do that.
Do we have a motion for approval of the application?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion?
What do we can't approve this.
No. This is a blank application, right? Didn't know what we were talking.
Mine's not blank.
No,
Mine
it-
has quite a bit of stuff
Did you
filled
say it was a
in.
blank
No,
application?
it is not blank. It is filled in with all the information that DEQ requires. And if we do not have it turned in by January 29th, if we do not have it submitted to them, then there's a possibility of a notice of violation because we have not submitted the application. This isn't the permit itself. This is just the NOI, the notice of intent for DEQ, the saying that we want to basically re-up our permit.
Okay. And you can have us that information before the 29th.
Yeah, there's a lot of the actual basic permit was in the packet there. It just basically you have to submit your best management practices and kind of what the city plans on doing. And that was just included within the, I can go over those real quick if you want to.
The city has no plans on what it's doing. It's going to do what DEQ tells us to do.
Pretty much, we have to follow
Pretty much, yeah.
what's within the regulations. We as staff can kind of determine what best management practices we want to do and what we need to follow. But those haven't really changed a whole lot in the last few years. They have somewhat, and I can go over those because I've created a little bit of I'll show you. This is just some of a few of the changes as far as the
Well, I'm wondering, this is not going to cost us $20 million to implement.
no. Basically, what Julie's doing before is what I'm keeping with now, and we already have the budget. The stormwater budget comes out for the $1 a month of the utility fees, and that's the only budget that stormwater has. So we don't use any other additional funds other than that.
Okay. They can't close our city down if we don't.
Well, in 2008, the city received a notice of violation because it wasn't in compliance with the state regulations. And it wasn't until 2010 that it became into compliance.
And we are in compliance now. We're just,
Yes, yeah, for the most
Yes
part, I
and
would
no.
say. Yeah, because the permit was expired by the time that that we came into compliance. Because that was about the time that Julie was started in 2010, and the permit expired a few months before she got here. So, kind of one of those deals.
Could we have a copy of this PowerPoint sent to us in an email?
Definitely,
So we could go through it. I think this is probably what
That's what we
Councilmember
should have had a
Shirey's
copy of that.
Yeah,
wanting to see, condensed version.
yeah,
Maybe
that's
swell.
what this was.
Thank you.
The very last page, it's not labeled. It says there's two things that possibly attach: historic properties and endangered species documentation.
Yeah,
Or should you-
the very last document that's in your packet is just kind of a sample stormwater pollution prevention program, and that is something that something new that DEQ is requiring us to have because we are not following the minimum control measures. One of them because we're allowing the state to take that over, and that's been that way since before 2005. And because of that, they are allowing us to have the SWP3, which is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program application. So,
Thank you.
Is this template something that we really need to have? Or
Might be
could that be
using it,
something that we could just refer to?
I think it's something that we can refer to. It's more for staff usage, like if there's ever like a something that the city needs to do, then they can follow, then we can use that to submit to DEQ for notice of intent for any stormwater issues, or if an applicant comes in wanting to do a development, then I can give that to them as well and say, you need to follow this.
Yeah, I'm happy knowing you have one without having my own personal copy.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why were we, whoops, I gotta turn on. Why were we, I know you have a reason, okay, so I gotta ask. Why were we given however many blank pages? The information was not in it. Where it says, I mean, what is red, is that what you're?
Yeah, the whole back, it's
where it
the
says,
longest part of the document
insert copies
is.
of?
Yeah, that's the longest part of the document is just that stormwater pollution prevention program. That basically, it's for whoever fills it out. That red is where they fill it in.
So, but what I'm trying to determine is,
Why did I include it?
why did the council need to see this before it was completed?
That way, you guys saw the entire application that was going to be turned into DEQ for their approval, and that way you
But
guys
there's nothing
saw it
here
before.
to approve because you haven't completed it.
Well, the stormwater pollution prevention program, that's just a template that DEQ is requiring us to have. So that's why it was included, because it has to be within the NOI and the application.
Okay. Okay.
Is this when someone is going to have a project of some type and how they're going to prevent polluting the stormwater? Is that what
Correct.
it is? Like if
Correct.
you're building and you're going to put up the netting around it so the dirt doesn't wash down in it? And so this is just what that entity would fill out
Correct.
when they're going to have a project?
Correct.
That's why there's nothing filled out right now?
Right, correct. And on the screen, you'll see the items that have to be submitted with the NOI, and that's why I included it, because we have to have the council approval to be able to submit it to DEQ.
So when you complete this, the big part, when you complete that, they issue the permit and then we'll pay the $748?
Basically, we submit this, they look it over, they do an internal review, they come back to us and sit there and say, here is any tweaks or changes that need to be made. And then after that, it'll go through public review, and then after that, it'll be submitted.
Then they get the money?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a while before, I don't know exactly how long yet, but
Within 6 months, within a year?
I would say definitely within.
Okay.
But the main part of the packet that's there, that has all the red, is for a developer or someone that is coming in and disturbing earth. It's for them to fill out. It's not for the city to have filled out.
That's true. I don't have any problem with that. The only problem I have with, no wonder the state's in the hock or up to the rears for $900 million is putting garbage like this out and expecting us to pull up the change and send them, how many cities are there in Oklahoma? 250 to 300 applications. And this wasn't an easy thing to read. Certainly wasn't for me, all those big words.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Please post your votes. Item 6, consideration of possible action to approve resolution number 1402 as follows. A resolution calling for a special election to be held citywide in the city of Bethany, Oklahoma on April 5th, 2016 for the purpose of submitting proposed amendments to the charter of the city of Bethany, Oklahoma, adding a new section 8-1.1 requiring a 3/4 vote for all city council members to approve a zoning change where there is a protest filed by the owners of 20% or more of the area of lots included in such proposed change, or by more than 50% of the land area within a 300-foot radius of the property. Amending sections 6-3, 6-4, and 6-5, adding a new section 6-10 to the charter, changing the date for primary elections for council and mayor, and providing for a new filing periods for filing for office of council member and mayor, adding a new section 6-10, which allows the council to change the dates of council member and mayor elections under the certain circumstances provided for conduct of the election by the Oklahoma County Election Board and approving the proclamation calling for the election. Do we have a motion for approval of resolution number 1402?
I have
So
a
moved,
question.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved and seconded. Go ahead with your question.
I know we don't have too many places where this might be an issue, but in the 3/4 vote, if we had a large parcel of property where the 20%, I guess my question is, with 20% or the 50% applications, could the property owner be one person in either case? And there's the parcel of property that I'm asking about specifically at 39th and Council, that I know this is a charter change, but I'm asking that if you have a large property owner, are you dealing with one person for that
No,
20 or 50%?
because it's the exterior boundary, 300 foot of the exterior boundary.
It'll be the exterior boundary of the whole
The
area.
20% is for the property to be changed, and the owners of that property, the only way that would come into play would be if the city chose to rezone someone's property,
Okay.
not the property owner applying for it.
Okay.
In other words, if you decided to rezone a 5-acre tract of land and had 10 owners, 20% of that would be 2. Okay.
Okay.
But the 50% is what you're interested in. To be honest with you, I've never seen the city council propose a rezoning where you had a protest from the owners.
Okay. Okay. You used to asking for, did we get the motion?
Yes, we already have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or discussion?
Well, these questions that you have here, besides the question that was just asked, about the question we just asked, are they to be submitted for the election? And we're approving an election at this time for that,
April 5th, yes.
April 5th. Well, what is in here is what we're going to, the city council is being asked to submit this to the county election board to be placed on a ballot on April the 5th.
That's correct. If you look at the proclamation that's attached, it shows what the ballot will look like in there. It's actually 2 propositions. The first has to do with the rezoning majority, and the second one has to do with fixing the election dates that are not available for the next council election in 2017. The date for your primary election is not a date permitted under state law for an election. And the other thing that one does is that, I think I told you last time that there's discussion among the legislature about changing election dates again. So out of caution, I've added a provision to this that says if they prohibit either of these dates for a city election, then the city council can set the dates, and that prevents you from having to amend the charter if that happens. And an election to amend the charter, last I heard, was about a $15,000 item. So I think it's wise to put that language in there. Matter of fact, the secretary of the state election board told me that there were some bills already on the horizon to change dates again. So
And you're
I think
talking about the bold type. will
the
be-
bold type is the new language,
is the new
yes.
language along with the deletions that are.
It has a
Stricken.
strike through it, yes.
Okay.
Where the line is drawn through it, that's the language that's being deleted, and the bold language is the new language.
And
And,
then,
and this council has no, this is the way it will be submitted this time.
Absolutely.
And
Unless the election board makes a mistake typing it.
Never happened.
and just to clarify on the 3/4 vote, our ordinances is in compliance with the way this is written?
Yes,
Okay. I just want to be sure that,
you did.
So there is no.
This puts it in the charter requiring a vote of the people instead of the council from having the authority over that.
And when will be the next opportunity to amend the charter then? We don't know.
The following month?
Oh, okay, if we can get a date.
Yeah, I mean, we could call an election. Are you asking about state election, when the state would allow us?
Oh, there are numerous dates left the rest of this
Then
year.
we can submit something later on.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Is there a reason that we have to have these specific dates in the charter when we're really at the whim of the election board
Well,
to change them? I mean, do they have to be
all I
in the
would
charter?
say, since Bethany's charter was adopted, the first Tuesday in April has always been the general election. And that's a fairly common date for city elections. I don't look for that to change in the future. It could, but I don't really anticipate that. The primary election date, though, a lot of cities don't have primary elections, and that's the one that is risky of being changed again. But to answer your question, I would say historically, those dates have been prescribed in the charter, and I think it gives some sense of orderliness to have that set forth in the charter, so that you didn't have, I guess you could have a council elected that decided they wanted to have the elections in October, and then the next one decide they want to have them in May or something. So I think that's probably the rationale behind it. But to answer your question, you could just say the election would be set by the council. Historically, that's not what's been done. Well, I agree. That's why I put the language in that I did. And under that language, you should never have to amend the charter regardless of what the legislature does with the dates. I thought that was a easy way to handle the situation.
Using the April 5th for the citywide vote, are we going to have the library bond ready in time so that it can be paired together, so we're not going back to the city a month later?
I was going to report on that at my next meeting, at my item on the agenda. Those documents, I've talked to the financial advisor who has worked on this bond issue and informed him that we were having this election in April, and I sort of assumed that that election would be held on the same date, but that's certainly not required. I was going to report to you under my item about that. So either now or after I report on that, we probably should have some discussion about that.
Because we don't want two citywide votes a month from each other.
I agree. And a citywide vote is approximately $15,000.
And it's hard to get people to turn out for special elections.
But
So
I have.
when's the latest time we can bring forth the bond and get it on the ballot?
February the 4th. So we have the next council meeting and one more. It's my recommendation that we place this on, if we're going to call the election in April for this library issue, it's my recommendation we put it on the next meeting of January the 19th and consider it then, just in case something happens, that we would have another meeting to fix it if something went wrong. So
Can I-
that's my thought.
I talked with the library. We had a library committee meeting today. And then since we talked, I have talked with them again. And we meet again on the 19th of January. We won't be able to make a presentation that night. It would occur on the 2nd. And at that time, we need the financial advisor have his ducks in a row, as well as the council can make a decision on the whole situation at that time. Because we don't have enough time to make a presentation with what needs to be discussed on the 19th.
The problem is there, you're really cutting it short because you've only got 2 days. If there's something out of place, it's going to throw the election off.
Is the library,
We have, I may be stepping out on faith here because I've talked to the architect and I've talked to the library system, and after our meeting today, we've been moving consistently forward rather well. I don't disagree with you, Mr. Davis, that there could be a hitch that can happen in anything. We saw it happen tonight. But I think that if we work as the committee to have, and the architect has everything as has been given to us, information that's been given to us by the citizens and that they've received from the committee, that presentation on the 2nd, along with the financial advisor's recommendation, I think that will be okay. And that's just from having worked with it with the committee. How long have we been doing it? 6 months or more?
is the library that close? I mean, the site plans, the engineering, everything that close to be ready to go to a vote?
All that's going to be presented to the council at that time is a proposal for a concept. The details of the nuts and bolts and screws are going to come after the bond issue. What you're going to see is a concept of the library, the location, and the surrounding area around the library.
I mean, a fire truck is easy to figure out, $1.3 million, boom, we need a fire truck, but how can you ask people to vote on something that's a concept that's taxing them?
Well, okay, let me give you an example. I mean, are we okay to discuss this at this point? I don't want to get out of point of order or anything.
We had that other issue. I was going to report on this maybe it might be better to get this item out of the way and then bring that up under council member proposals.
Okay.
I had intended to bring it up under my report.
Is it possible to either table this or put this off for a month so we have time to prepare the library? So we're not taking a chance of wasting $15,000 of the taxpayer money?
Back to the 15,000, I keep hearing that. We didn't start that. And 15,000 is a drop in the bucket. We spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you count the opportunity cost, we've probably got $1 million in this thing. I mean, the longer this thing goes without being fixed, the more we're wide open to legislation, or to litigation. They just we got sued, our defense bills. I mean, anybody can sue anybody for any reason. $15,000 is a drop in the bucket. John used $15,000 worth of his time, just like that. So, I mean, the $15,000 is a lot of money, but to do the right thing, it's not a lot of money.
Are voters going to show up a month and a month later?
They got to be given the opportunity. I mean,
To answer your question, yes, it is possible to move it forward. And let me see if I have that schedule here in front of me. Okay, the election could be moved forward to May, June, or July, August, September, October, November, December. So almost every month this year, it would be possible to answer your question.
So we may lose 30 days.
may have somebody come through wanting to build something too that could change the entire thing.
Well, that or we can wait to see if this is going to be ready. We can vote on them both together on the February 4th, second
We
meeting.
vote on February 2nd at the meeting, and then we would have February 4th or 5th when the deadline is to file with the election board.
Yeah, or if you moved it to May, then you would still have time if you acted in February to do that. So any of those are options. The only reason the April 5th is before you was because my direction was to place this on the agenda at the earliest possible date.
Yeah, that's-
And
that's tax
this
time,
is
and
the
that's-
earliest
that's
possible
good time.
date.
That's not a good time for that.
Yes, but this is a completely different subject. what this was housekeeping that needed to be cleaned up on what we're going to do on the April 5th. It needs to be cleaned up.
I agree, I just think they both need to be done together.
Well, I would like to see them both done together,
You
but
have a motion and a second.
you don't want to jump into something or other half-cocked. Which means your gun doesn't go off.
There was a motion and a second to approve. Who had the motion, Susan? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor for, approval of the resolution 1402 as read. Please post your votes.
With that vote, I would assume that I should tell the finance advisor to plan on having documents ready for the meeting February the 4th.
Because at that point, we could amend
You-
this
you-
resolution to add another item to that ballot,
Absolutely.
correct?
Absolutely. But that's the last time you'd be able to do that.
Correct.
Megan's, the meeting's
The
suspended.
second, yeah,
The
February the
deadline's
2nd.
4th.
So, based on the vote that was taken here tonight, you'll see that on your February 2nd agenda.
Okay. To answer Mr. Moore's question about the library, an example of concept would be a floor plan of the interior of the library. Say where the bathroom is, the meeting room is, and how many square feet, and a general setup of what it will be. But the particulars of whether the floor is carpet or wood, or whether the chairs are blue or pink, those kinds of specifics will not be in there. That's clarifying the conceptual idea that I'm trying to convey. There will be a, I want to call it a rendering of the building, so that you know whether it looks like a church steeple, or the police station, or the city hall, or Carnegie Hall. You'll have an idea of what the building's going to look like. And the little hint is, we're putting a porch out there. So you're going to know, you're going to see the porch. Now, I can't tell you from the meeting today exactly where that porch is going to be.
And I don't know, good, bad, or otherwise, how specific it needs to be. I don't know.
Well, we have to be careful in what we present to the public, that that's what they're going to get. And if we show them red brick and we decide to go to brown brick for whatever reason, then we have a problem for what we presented to the public. So there will be some coloration, there will be those are some of the finalization things that we are going to be working on the 19th.
But the floor plan, the elevations, the cost, the engineer's estimates,
Now,
That's
that'll
all.
all be there. That'll all be there.
I
Yeah,
certainly.
We're going to have that.
I certainly think that probably the big thing here is whether the red brick or the brown brick we're going to put on the side of the building was. When we first started talking about this, we were talking $4 million maybe, and now we're up to $8 million for sure.
Well, but before that $4 million was the concept of the Metropolitan Library System. We have since done a extensive survey of what the citizens want. And what this now does is going to give the citizens the opportunity to say they're willing or not willing to pay for their desires.
Yes,
That is their choice. They have the right to say if they want it or not.
and my wife wanted a new Bentley.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item 7, which is the city attorney's report. Mr. Davis?
I think I've sufficiently reported on my item, and I think I have my direction on what needs to happen.
Thank you, David. Item 8, city manager's report. Steve?
I think, I'm sorry, not used to turning that on. Steve Caton with the Public Works Department is here, and I'd like to ask him for a report in reference to the tree limbs.
Thank you very much. And in keeping with tonight's theme, I've always wanted to be the chief engineer. So
There you go.
Where's his award?
anyway, hopefully everyone has a copy of this that was put in front of you. It's kind of a working map that we use for various things, not the least of which is big junk. And since tree limbs are very similar in nature, it seems to work very well. The area up in red and the purple lines represent the streets that we have already picked up, so you can kind of see our progress. We are working 2 crews at this time. I'm going to try to backtrack to the beginning of the projects and kind of bring everybody up to speed. We have been approved to stockpile and process storm debris in Eldon Lyon Park. That took a lot longer than it should have. Took almost 2 weeks to get that approval from the DEQ to stockpile and process. We do have 2 units, what are called air curtain destructors. I love saying that, but they're actually just a really, really good way to put a lot of excess air and get a really hot fire and burn a lot of wood in a little bit of time. It's also in compliance with all DEQ regulations regarding particulate emissions and everything else. And Janet Williams, our ODEQ inspector, is threatening to go around to all the little towns and say that you need to do it the way Bethany's doing it, because it's the lowest cost in both terms of money and environmental impact. So we're trying to do that. Now, the bad news is, well, the good news is the president apparently approved our emergency status as far as a disaster area, so we should be eligible for FEMA reimbursement for the costs. The bad news is we've been told by FEMA and Oklahoma Emergency Management that if we start processing the waste, meaning burning, chipping, hauling off, landfilling, or anything else, before the FEMA man gets here to measure it, then we are risking not getting reimbursed. So that's why you see the pile getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We continue to collect and stockpile, but we are only in the test phase to make sure the burning's going the way it's going as far as destroying it. But we have plenty of room in Eldon Lyon Park, and I've assured the city manager that the park will be ready for the 4th of July. Any promises beyond that, my crystal ball is not working that well at this point. Okay, the plan. Again, we have been, it seems like it's longer. It took us 2 weeks to get our approvals. We've been picking up. In the meantime, we had holidays. We had an ice storm. In case you guys don't know it, the same people that fix your water and your sewer and your parks and your garbage and the streets and all that, those are the guys that are picking this up. So when we have a water leak or when you set your garbage out, somebody's still got to keep doing all those normal things that we do for a living around here. And so like when we have an ice storm, the same trucks we're picking up limbs are the trucks we use to spread snow or spread salt and sand and plow. So we have to call off doing that, put our plows and sanders on and go out and do that. And then when that's over, take them all off and go back to hauling limbs. So I know it seems very slow and it's very frustrating, and I assure you my guys are as frustrated as everybody else. When we were waiting for the DEQ permit, I thought they were going crazy because everybody wanted to get going because they could see the stuff piling up as just like everyone else. But we have to do this according to regulations. If we do anything wrong, we are risking not getting a reimbursement from FEMA, and we're talking about some serious money that could be a result of this. So the map, again, the purple areas are where we have already picked up. We're using 2 crews. This area up north where they are right now, north of SNU and Bethany Public Schools, is really hard hit, so this is going slow up in there. This crew's making good headway from Rockwell to the west. They're almost out to John Robinson's house now, so when they finish up to Eagle Lane, the plan is for that crew to pivot north, go up through Riverside and Brownsville, and then pivot back to the east. In the meantime, this northern one will be coming down, and kind of like an old military maneuver, we hope to meet up right in this area north of 30th Street, and then both divisions will move south from there. Again, I wish I had a timetable for you, but the answer is, like in that old movie, when will it end? When they are finished. That's all I can tell you. But they're moving along. We're working, up until the holiday, we were essentially working from sun up to sundown with as many people as we could put on the ground. And at this point, we haven't resumed the full-time 12-hour day regimen right now, but we probably will be back to that as soon as we get everything back on schedule as far as the ice removal and that kind of stuff. We did have a second round. Fortunately, we didn't get as many limbs as the first time. Most of that was OG&E power. Knocked out our well field for 7 hours, but other than that, we didn't have a whole lot of damage on the second storm. So that's in a nutshell a brief update on the limbs. Again, I assure everyone they're moving as fast as we possibly can with the limited resources we have. Our instructions from the city manager were to pick up all the storm debris in a manner that will maximize the probability of reimbursement from the federal government, and that's what we are doing to the best of our ability. If that strategy changes, we will pivot and do whatever we need to cover out the new strategy. But at this point, that's where we're headed. So,
Steve, would you briefly talk about, originally when we had the storm and not exactly knowing what our game plan was other than to gather up the debris, and at that point was probably to just landfill it or chip it and get rid of it.
Yes.
We had originally talked we were going to start north and we were going to work our way south.
That's correct.
Obviously, we've started north, but we've also started right in the center.
That's correct.
Would you explain the thought process behind why we did that?
The north crew is the one that's using our big grapple truck and the big trucks. The south crew is using the skid steer loader and the small trucks. The theory behind where we started was because it's very near Eldon Lyon Park, so our transit time with the small trucks is minimized, and that's why we started in that area, just because of its geographic location near Eldon Lyon. That's also why that crew is going to pivot north and come back towards Eldon Lyon. So we're basically just working a circle around the stockpile area with the small equipment that has short turnaround time. The large equipment will continue to work this way, and then hopefully when they get south of 30th, they can work in tandem at that point.
I just know I'd seen some comments and people upset that, you're south of me, they were working north to south. And,
That is correct.
Originally, that was our plan,
Yes, it
was to
was.
move just north to south with all of our crews.
The original plan within a few days was to basically rent a giant tub grinder at $50,000 a month and just start grinding it as fast as we could bring it in up at Public Works. When we saw the costs involved and the amount of debris we were going to have and how it would pretty much shut down Public Works yard to do it that way, and then DEQ got with us about these combustors, and everyone decided this is absolutely the lowest cost way to do it, including for all those people who don't live in Bethany that are going to pay federal taxes and help reimburse the people of Bethany. They're going to thank us too, because we're doing it the absolute lowest cost in dollars, as well as we're not taking up landfill space. We're not having to do all those other things that others are doing right now, and we're not. So again, I think this is a great strategy. Obviously, we'll carry out whatever strategy you guys want us to do, but as of now, that's what we're doing.
And to put it, the size of that storm in perspective, in speaking with Mayor Woolley yesterday from War Acres, they just signed a contract for a company to gather theirs up and start chipping it, and their bid was $500,000, and that is a city of half our population. So, I mean, you're looking at what the size of this storm potentially would have cost the city of Bethany had we done it the traditional way. While this may take a little bit longer in some of our cleanup efforts, the money that we're going to save is huge. And even though we're going to get some reimbursement, it's definitely not 100%. So keeping those costs down is definitely advantageous for us and for the health of our budget long term. And obviously, I mean, winter is still young, so I mean, there's no telling what else could happen along the way. Knock on wood, nothing. But I know, like this weekend, I mean, you were speaking about those crews having to do other things. Just a block north of me, they were. I had no water all of a sudden.
Right.
And they were out fixing a large water main that had burst and was just throwing water everywhere. So those same crews that would be picking up, having to stop and go climb in water when it was 40 degrees outside. So,
That's correct. And I would like to take this opportunity as well to remind everyone that we can only pick up storm debris. don't throw your old couch out there. We'll have to pass you up, because even if we expend labor that we're going to try to get reimbursed for, and FEMA finds out we're commingling regular waste with storm waste, we are risking not being reimbursed. That's why we have to do that. I know it seems stupid. If you think it's stupid, I think his name's Barack Obama. Talk to him. He makes those federal regulations. So we just have to do whatever we have to maximize our potential to get reimbursed. And commingling waste is one of the fastest ways you can get FEMA to say no. And so our job is to get them to say yes. And that's what we're trying to do.
And Christmas trees are not storm damaged.
Christmas trees are not storm damage. That is correct.
Now, if they have roots on them, they are.
No. But just understand, if something is like that put out, it's going to get left. I mean,
It is.
your limbs may get picked up, but your other stuff is going to get left out there, and then we're going to have to come back and charge whatever
absolutely
fee
is.
for hauling
And
it
it
off.
may not. If you put it on top, my guys are probably going to pass you up. Now, you'll probably have an opportunity to remove
Right.
that stuff, and then we'll pick it up, but I can't even promise that at this time. So just to be safe, do not commingle anything with the storm damage. So.
Okay, could storm damage include somebody's outbuilding that has been,
No.
had a tree fallen down on it? and
No.
Tore up? It does not?
It would technically be storm damage. The problem is we can't put that in our air curtain
That-
incinerator. And so the issue becomes for us that it's awfully difficult to separate that stuff as we're grabbing literally grapples full of it and throwing it in a
Yeah,
truck.
it may be storm damage. I won't dispute that. But when the FEMA man's out there measuring and says, "What's that metal?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Oh, it's storm damage." He says, "I don't think it is. How can you prove it?" I'll give him your number. How's that?
And DEQ was very specific in their permit
Yes.
that even
Yes.
like fences that may have been damaged, even
Right.
though that may be a wood fence, cannot go into the air curtain
That's
incinerator and be burnt as a giant tree limb would.
I've-
So they
I've
were
been
very
getting these
specific even in that
questions
wood.
about-
Right.
About fences and about outbuildings that, that.
It becomes a matter of anything other than tree limbs. I'm not going to say it, we won't get reimbursed, but you are jeopardizing your reimbursement if you start commingling anything but tree limb.
Fences and outbuildings are coverage B on your homeowner's insurance policy. Call your agent.
Okay.
Coverage B.
Would you give me that again so I can hear it?
Call your insurance agent.
Call your insurance agent
If it's not a tree limb.
if it's not a tree limb. Okay, that sounds
What do
reasonable.
we-
I'm very happy with this.
What do we tell people that want to bring their own? They've got stuff. Lots of people.
The short answer, no. The reason is because of FEMA reimbursement, we must absolutely control the waste stream. And the only way I can guarantee, our permit only says it's got to be storm damage, it's got to be from Bethany, and it cannot be commercial. And I can't guarantee that
Fair enough.
unless my guys are picking it up.
And one of the other problems is too, is the personnel that we have out there and the equipment
Right.
we're using. I don't know if you've been by there, but it's a very large front end loader
Yeah.
that we've got out there. And so, I mean, we're dumping it with city equipment, but being around somebody else's trailer and that risk of damaging something.
Absolutely. It
Or
is-
just the problems that it's going to create.
That is a work zone out there, and it is extremely dangerous.
And it's a well orchestrated.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
and to
And-
mess that flow up would do nothing but delay further the
That's
pickup
right.
efforts that they're doing at the curb.
And I want to make sure, thank you for that segue, by the way, there's also an inner fence that surrounds the air curtain combustor, and before all of you ask, no, you can't come look at it. It's really cool, I'll tell you, maybe I can video it, but it's also extremely dangerous. It's 1,800 degrees in there, and we have clay soil, and it's not hot enough to turn that clay to pottery, but it is hot enough to drive all the moisture out. So the sides start caving in, and so you get this concave side. And if we're over here gawking, we're actually standing over unsupported earth. And if you fall in, there's not going to be enough left for your family to identify. So no, we won't let anybody go look at the neat fire, except for him. We can't keep him out. I don't know what to do. He likes looking at that stuff, I guess. But anyway, maybe we could arrange for something. But I did have a unique question today or yesterday from a young couple, and they were hoping we could have a giant community bonfire for everyone. But unfortunately, DEQ regs will not allow that either. They thought that would be a wonderful come together moment for the whole city.
Look up
but-
College Station in the dictionary.
There-
You'll
there
figure out
you
what
go.
happens
Okay.
when you have very large bonfire.
Okay.
I don't think that'd be smart.
All right.
I do have another question or two. The volume of leftovers, the ash that we'll have, will those be toted off in roll-off dumpsters?
At this point, that is my plan. There is the option of just, you compact it in lifts and make it, and just bury it, basically. At this point, I plan to roll off. In case you're wondering, the densification is 95 to 98%. So there's only about 2 or 3 to 5% of what goes in is left. So the amount of ash is going to be minimal. But at this point, my plan is to roll off. But that may change until we get in full.
The stack out there is appreciable, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking, if we just buried it, we would have a series of graves out there that we don't know how they're going to settle and things like that. So my plan right now is to roll off. It's going to be minimal and compared to what the overall
And
size
DEQ
is.
and the FEMA people agree with you on carting the ash off?
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually hoped we could get a self-contained unit that didn't need a pit because it is easier to haul off that way. But so they were actually in favor of landfilling the ash. But that's probably the way we're going to go.
And
And
my
you-
my next question would simply be, is Public Works open for standard dumping of fences, outbuildings?
Yes, the Public Works facility is
Whatever-
as normal as if nothing had
whatever
ever happened.
They
Yes.
want to haul up there, including their own tree limbs?
That is correct.
With their water bill?
That's correct.
Anything that's normally dumped there
It
can
will
be
be
still
just
dumped
as
down?
if nothing had happened.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just understand, there's a fee for that.
Yes.
And it is seemingly backwards, that we would pick it up for free at your
Right.
curb, but we're gonna charge you to bring it up there.
That's correct.
But, I mean, it's
That's,
the way it works. Right.
yeah.
But yeah, if you've got other outbuilding pieces or fence panels.
And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people understand, and they just want to get it out of their yard, and they're willing to pay whatever
Sure.
it is, and
Isn't
I
it like
understand that.
$7 a
And
cubic yard or something?
it's
of that nature?
$7 a cubic yard, uh-huh.
For my neighbors who are wondering when the front yard of City Hall is going to look beautiful again, I've been telling them that the people who do that are the ones that are hauling limbs for other
You've
clients.
been telling the truth, yeah.
And, yeah, we just need to make that known to the public that we're letting our own front yard get messy while we're trying to help yours.
That's right. We're not special. We're
Yeah,
picking up
we don't want to pull
theirs.
off all those crews to come trim all this up and make it look pretty, and all the while, we're not picking anything up at
Yeah.
the curbside. so.
Not even the squirrel that I saw go into the trash, into the limb mound at the park today. There were 3 squirrels, looks like they were going in there. So that made me wonder, the big mound, how many squirrels are out there?
I bet there are a lot. For some reason, the sparrows, weaver finches, love to hang out in those big piles of sticks. I don't know. There must be a zillion out there.
They were having a ball.
Yeah.
They were having a ball.
Nature.
A lot of
You-
protection.
You touched on one thing, that we're without power for 7 hours
Yes.
for the wells.
Yes.
Do we have a plan in place if that continues? Contracts with rental companies, rent generators or anything else? to get
We
those wells
we
back
have
up?
generators that we can haul. We can run 3 wells from our main generator at the water treatment plant. We have 3 additional portable wells with the old, if you know what a welder connection looks like, we can just plug them in and give them half a twist, and we can run up to 6 wells on generator power.
And that's how many gallons?
Depends on which 6 we're using. I can't remember, but they average about 200 a minute per well, so about 1,200 gallons a minute. That's probably not enough to keep up with peak demand, but it'll at least keep the tanks from going dry. We can always.
And there's
open-
always the option to open the valve with Oklahoma City.
We can always
but that's the
uncork
last
the
option we
Oklahoma
wanna
City
do.
and pay them $1 million a drop.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, we, over the last few years, have gotten under Steve's leadership, have gotten the Public Works building under generator power so that the refueling can continue on a normal basis too. So they've come a long ways in the past
Yeah,
7 to 10 years.
we've got a couple of Bowsers that we can fill up and haul out to the generators. We all got a lot of generators at our lift stations for sewage, so it was pretty easy to keep that continuity going, yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions related to that? Thank you for that,
Thank you.
Mr. Caton, appreciate it.
Steve.
You have anything else?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Number one, the Channel 20, we are currently working on Channel 20 and trying to bring it back into functionality that I had hoped that that would be taken care of by now, but it will soon be taken care of. Just want to remind people that I understand that they don't like the stuff in their yard, and we don't like the stuff in our yard here. And but our crews are working. It's very cold. It is very late. They are working 12-hour days. Please don't vent on our crews. They don't deserve it. And we've had several occasions where people have basically unloaded the guys that are trying to clean up their yard. So please refrain from that. Everyone is upset by this. And Danielle, I apologize that John is not here. I'm sure the wastewater application would have gone better had he been here, because I didn't even see it till about an hour and a half ago when he said he would not be here. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Thank you. Item 9 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Councilmember Knapp, I'll start with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have seen that large pile of limbs out there. I've driven by. And I know it's in the testing phase, but I don't see any smoke. So that's pretty cool. I did look online. I Googled the incinerator, and it's a really nice system. I really don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shirey?
Yes. This has been a very happy new year. I mean, and I'm glad that we have started the new year, and we're working down towards our fiscal year. You also must remember that probably 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago, we used to have approximately 185 people working for the city of Bethany, and now we're down into the 140 range, and this makes things very slow, and it's the only way we can handle it. So people are just going to have to, give us some help or give us some money, and I'm sure they don't want to give us money, so they're going to have to give us some help. That's all I have for the evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing at this time.
All right. Councilmember Larson?
I have to say that Public Works has outdone themselves since Thanksgiving. I've seen the sanitation track slide a little bit in our alleys and our streets. I've seen water repairs. I've seen limbs back in Thanksgiving when they were in streetways being cut down by Public Works people. Our roads have been repaired temporarily in some situations. And I have to tell you, just the last 2 days when we've had the warmest weather that we've had in a long time, I've been freezing to death, and I can't imagine these people working in the weather they've had to work with. So not only should they be nice, but you know what? Go out and roll down your window from your warm car and tell them thank you. Take them a cookie, take them a cupcake, anything, because you don't want to be out there. At least show some appreciation to these guys. Yes, it's their job, but we all like to be appreciated once in a while. And I really think that they have earned a thank you, if nothing else. I can't imagine it. Susan, thank you. You put up with this, and we appreciate it. Along with all the others that received their. Another one sitting out there, Chief Cole, he puts up with a lot too. I appreciate all the years of all of our employees that they put on here. Our turnover is very low, even though we have a few positions open right now and some coming. I too am excited about 2016. I see great things going to happen in our city. I think that we have a good council that works together. I'm grateful for that. We have good staff, and I'm grateful for that. And like I said, the library met today, and we hope to have something for the council on the 2nd of February, if not sooner, if the attorney can rub his crystal ball. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Lundstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's good preaching, Councilwoman Larson. It really is. I sat there and was like, yeah, that's it, right on. So I do appreciate Public Works and all of our crews, our public safety crews, and golly, it's just one of those times when you're just like, can we just go on to spring and get this over with, you know, it's, but, I know I'm tired of tree limbs, I'm sure they are. But I just so appreciate the fact that, you know, during all this time when our lives are disrupted, our services keep on going. And that's very valuable, not only to me and my family, but to others all the way around. And 2 nights ago, and John, I'm sure you've gotten calls like this, probably more recent than I did, of power that is still being interrupted right here in our town. So not only is our infrastructure strained, but OG&E's is really strained, and it takes a lot of patience when you're sitting there in a cold, dark house with no cable. Bless your heart. It's really frustrating when you start hearing and smelling your electronics. And Curtis, I'll leave the insurance speech to you, but document everything. Document every loss. I would say even down to the light bulbs that's gotten blown out because you've got your voltage at 240 volts instead of 110 like it should be.
Oops.
Yeah. I was sitting there measuring some the other night, and it just went from 240 back to 110 just like it should be as my instrument was on the lugs. And it was like, okay, we're good to go now. But your equipment still smells like it's on fire, so document that. But, you know, bless our hearts. I mean, we are a spoiled group of people here in America, but we work hard for it nonetheless. But still, we appreciate those who continue to keep our services going and flowing, and the public safety folks that watch out for our goodwill and lives, and we appreciate that very much. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate what everybody said, is please have patience and with the picking up of the limbs and storm debris, and try to remember, too, that this could be like May in tornado season. We could very easily just be on the tip of the iceberg here, and we could have several more of these before it's over. So patience is what's needed, and jumping on people like that, that's just ridiculous. They might just have to talk to Mr. Chief Cole if they do that. That's ridiculous. But try to appreciate everybody because they are busting their backs to get it done. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say the same things that have already been said. Do so appreciate Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, everyday staff in the office. You know, it's been said many times, and I have people say this all the time, that Bethany seems to be a different place. And I think it's because we truly do care about each other. We may not agree on every instance all the time, but we do care for each other. We care for this great city, and I do hope and pray that it continues to be a light and an example that lifts people up, gives good thoughts, think on good things. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I really appreciated the additional Christmas decorations in our downtown area this year, which was especially meaningful when these over here went down. So I appreciate our trying that. A couple of very special Bethany residents went to heaven this week, and I just want to recognize them. Glenn Van Zant's funeral is tomorrow at 10 o'clock at Calvary Nazarene. And Darlene Ripper Graves' funeral is Saturday at 11 at Bethany First Church. And her dad, Harold, was the mayor here. So just thank them for their contribution to Bethany and remember them tonight. And thank you, too, for the Public Works staff and all of the public safety staff and everyone who worked so hard over the holidays.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Caton, I want to give a big thank you to you and your crews for the work that your guys are doing out there. I mean, it really drives it home when, you know, they're out there working these 12-hour days, and then you do see them literally have to stop, go swap trucks, grab a mini track hoe, and show up into somebody's front yard and start digging when it's 39, 40 degrees outside. And that's all well and good as long as you're on the track hoe. But at some point, somebody's got to jump down in that hole and start making a repair. And even when you're pumping out as fast as you can pump it out, it's still flowing into that hole, and somebody's extremely wet in 40-degree temperatures. And that happens all the time. I mean, that's not a rare occurrence. It's not so bad when it's 102 outside and you have to jump in the hole. The bad thing is you got to take the good with the bad, and at some point it's frigid. So thank you to your guys for the storm cleanup they're doing, and then stopping and putting those plows on the trucks. The other morning on the way to work, was behind two of them down 23rd Street. Timed it perfectly because the street was nice and clear right behind the two trucks. Unfortunately, they turned and I had to keep going straight. But it never ceases to amaze me how quickly we're able to go out and work on those things. You drive into Oklahoma City any direction from here, and the roads they look like a war zone most of the time when it's been icy or snowing, and in Bethany they're cleaned up. So those guys do a fantastic job. I want to give my thoughts and prayers to our city manager, John Schugert, and his wife, Donna. Her mother is not doing well, and John has taken some time off to deal with those family issues. So keep them in mind as they try to make some decisions on helping Donna's mother. So that's why he's not here tonight. But thank you, Steve, for stepping up, even though it was last minute. Appreciate you. Item 10 is new business. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany City Council? Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until January 19th, 2016. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Public Works Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A and B. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 2 is new business. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Public Works Authority? Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until January 19th, 2016. And hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Hospital Trust. We have the consent docket items 1A and B. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Hospital Trust? Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until January 19th, 2016. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Development Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A and B. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Development Authority? Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until January 19th, 2016. Hearing none, we will be adjourned. That concludes tonight's business.